So I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the minutes. So, Rick sent around the minutes, comments?
I have one comment, very minor. Under old invoices, it says Bob will submit his invoices after completion of the Mill Pond Bridge is completed. Seems a little redundant.
Ah, okay. Got it. Tim had a similar correction. I used the word planning or plan twice in the same sentence.
I don't even notice those things.
Obviously, I don't either.
I move the minutes be accepted with the
Second.
adjustments.
And we have a second to that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimously
Thank you.
approved.
Thanks,
again.
Rick, for doing them.
All right. Financial status?
Yeah, the rider is unchanged at $4,125.32. Our donation and expense account is the same as last month, $389.04. And the Hubbardston Preservation Trust is at $18,322, except for this, $1,739 for hay.
17?
39. So that'll bring the Hubbardston, once it's put into the account, bring the total
That'll
for...
bring it over 20,000?
Yeah, $20,061.04. On a side note regarding the Hubbardston Preservation Trust account, the recreation folks are having 3 meetings in the next 3 weeks, which tells the CPA folks that something's going to be, they're going to be asking for something probably. So, and since they have access to that account, if we have any need for any of the funds, we ought to grab it now. Not that they take it all, but they control access to it. So
All right.
that's it on the financial side of things.
All right, invoices, same status. Land Priority Group, we haven't had another meeting. Bob's been totally gone, trying to clean out a house in Bolton, so that has sort of put a damper on that. Mass Trail Grant, I'll have to talk with Mark how we're gonna get updates on what's happening with the Mass Trails Grant. So
Make them come to meetings.
have them come to meetings?
The report.
I'm
I'll
sure
get
he'll keep
an
us- I'm
update,
sure-
because something should be happening pretty quick, I would think.
Well, did he have, last meeting, he said that he was gonna be taking a walk with the Terramore folks in the next week or so after that meeting. Do we know?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Did
I
he
would have
communicate
thought he
with
would have notified me.
Well,
but-
that's what he mentioned in the meeting he was gonna do, but,
I think he said that he didn't anticipate construction starting until at least June.
So June?
well, in the meeting, he said late May,
Oh, late May?
Yeah.
All right.
whatever. But he was planning on taking a walk with us.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't see anything, what he was letting us know that, so.
Is it
I'm
okay to
guessing it
ask
didn't
him
happen.
via email?
Sure,
So we could just send him a note.
why not?
I mean, committee-wise, but he's not on the committee
He's not
anymore,
on
so
the
you
committee.
can still send out an email and have a discussion through email.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we can just ask him. He's
Just don't
smart.
deliberate.
He's always gets right back with things, so.
Yeah.
All right. Trail maintenance projects. My printer's a little screwed up here. Trail maintenance projects. The new trail loop at Mount Jeff. Steph and I were out there again. We got past the stone wall by. I don't know if people remember. I should have brought a map in, but Tim knows it well. It winds down around, ends up going to a stone wall that's essentially the boundary of
Kimbers.
Who?
Kimbers,
And it's a boundary between that Kimbers and,
Hubbard's, Mount Jeff Conservation Area.
oh yeah, but up at the top of the hill,
Oh, Joe's.
Joe
Yeah.
Cataldo. That's also a boundary there. So we get out to that, snaked our way down, and then it heads back
North.
north. And so we got through that, and then snaked our way where it starts winding down again. So that's about where we stopped. We stopped right about at a big, there's a road just before a big hemlock.
Mhm.
And so right at that spot is right about where we ended up stopping. So we'll probably
You
try and
mentioned
get,
a ride in June
yeah,
coming up
yeah.
with, who, is that,
Bay State Trail Riders.
it is Bay State?
Bay
Trail.
State Trail Riders, yep.
Okay.
I can send you that link.
Oh, I got her email, it said Bay State here in October, so I was wondering if the June was wrong, or
Bob,
or I got Bay State wrong.
No, there's two.
Yeah.
if
Two
if I'm
rides.
picturing the right hemlock tree,
This
just
one's
beyond that
Sawyer's Field. The
is
other
where
one's
there's a
up in Marshall.
really big beech tree that I think if it's not dead, it's almost dead, and it's got big limbs that are falling down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And I don't know if,
stayed below that,
I
so I
wa-
didn't touch any of those.
yeah, I was thinking maybe stay a little ways away from it, so nothing falls
so
off.
it's not a safety hazard
Yeah.
or something, yeah, all right. The other projects, Beaver Pond, Gates Hill Bridge. Gates Hill Bridge will get out very shortly to just neaten that's done, but the fabric needs to get tied down. I didn't have
Mm.
the right length screws and
And the-
some stripping along
Yeah,
the
piece
sides.
of material.
So I've got all that stuff, so we'll get out and do that shortly.
Are you gonna bring more material down there?
Yeah, I'd like to bring some more material. There's what I'd like to do, one more thing there. There's a good-sized boulder, well, by about this big, right by the tree, and it gets a little narrow right
Yep.
there. I was gonna see if we could somehow get something, either bars or a strap and a come-along to pull that off the trail just another couple feet and then fill that in with material. But
Mhm.
I wouldn't do that till we had the material
Yep.
to fill the hole that would have created. I met with Maddie Stouter and her dad, and what we talked about, there were two things that were on the table. The working on a portion of the Mill Pond Trail reroute, or connecting from approximately the where the MDC bound is now DCR, but it is actually marked MDC.
At Mullen Road.
And it's actually maybe 100 feet closer to the parking area from that spot, but that's a good general description. And it's essentially the trail that several of us have walked that gets back out to the field and then down. And what I talked about with a scope of that was to clear that section of trail, just like they were thinking about on the other one, and then also clear brush that was growing in from the side of the road. And she's written up a project description, which I'll get out to everybody. And one thing that was of note, she was trying to cram everything into a one-day effort, and which is even for that, that's a much less scope than the other project would have been. That's still a little bit on the unrealistic side, that you try and get everything done within one day. So I sent back, I made some edits to it. I'll send all that around to folks so they can see what the thought process is. But I suggested that she widen her window of effort there to maybe 3 or 4 days, and that would be much easier to implement. So
did she decide that's the project she wants
yeah,
to
they
do?
were very happy with that project, and it fits much better into her short time frame window, actually, that she was talking about, because she was still trying to get that done in a day, and I said, that's a little unrealistic, so let's open that up a little bit, so you can see what I did when I send that around. I'll send it around with my comments. And relative to cost and that, my envision, just to make it just like the other trail, so we put down the triax and the base material, 4 inches of base material and 2 inches of top material. And the cost of that will be roughly $3K. And from what Mark was talking about, I'm hoping to get that from the grant money. So, and I'll run that by Mark too, so.
Well, we can always apply to the rec guys to fund that.
The what, rec?
Yeah, the rec department, out of the Hubbardston Treasure.
Yeah,
We got
yeah,
20 grand in
yeah,
there.
well, we certainly have funding in that.
Because we
so.
won't know on the other project till
Yeah,
Yeah.
October,
yeah,
and we may have some other things in the meantime that come up
Yeah.
that we might want to use that for.
That's a
yeah.
good idea.
So Maddie, right
Just
now,
commenting
she's,
that we should ask
I
them.
think in Italy. Is that where she's at? Yeah, Italy.
France?
Northern Italy, I believe. So she's part of a foreign exchange thing, so she's spending 2 or 3 weeks over there. And then in May, so right now is the transition point. The person she's staying with there is coming back to Hubbardston for 3 or 4 weeks. So she's not available to do anything until the early part of June anyway, so.
How rough of an estimate is that 3K?
It's a pretty good estimate.
So if we were to solicit approval from the rec folks,
Yeah, well,
For
let
that.
me just fine tune that a little bit,
Yeah.
whether it's 30 or
and I'll,
3,500 or
and I'll
something.
just send them a note, and,
Okay.
because in the past, we've always
Alright.
come at them after the fact, and
All right, that sounds good.
with new people on that committee, it might be nice to set up a good relationship
Yeah, good
by
idea.
asking them in advance.
That makes a nice narrative to talk about an Eagle Scout project,
Mm-hmm.
linked to,
Yeah, and relative to the benefits of that project versus maybe doing a portion of Gates Hill, it really makes a really nice optional loop in that system, particularly for the target users that we're thinking about for that, the all-access aspects of thing. Because you can do a really short loop right now, which may be fine for some people, but this would add probably another 1,600 feet that's going out to the bound, and then another 800 feet to get back to where it connects on.
Wow,
So,
yeah.
So that's that. This is all old business, by the way. The open space drive.
Wait, have you guys all been on it recently?
I was on it today.
Yeah, okay, I can get on it.
Okay, so the only one that can't get on is Bob.
Oh,
Because he was invited
are they
with
trying to
his,
tell you
Cool.
something?
with his
Because I
Hubbardston
get-
email, not his personal email. So
So
now
you-
he just needs to
since
get
I-
re-invited
yeah,
by
since-
someone. But he was the administrator.
Yeah, so my path onto it was the Open Space Committee Gmail address, and that's gone. So, but I shared it with folks, and so everybody I shared it with can get it through their own email. So somehow we gotta get it,
And I went in and tried to see if I could invite him, but you can't. It has to be
Yeah,
the administrator
administrator.
that invites someone. Maybe, I'm gonna guess Mark might be able to have
Yeah.
the capability to do that.
yeah, because I think Mark had full administrative capability, so maybe he can
Yeah,
somehow
his
close that.
last meeting, he said that he would look into that.
Yeah.
See, he wasn't sure that.
Yeah, and I got a note from him saying if things weren't resolved just with dealing with Nate, which they haven't been, then he'd help. So I'll follow up on that drive with Mark. And I've been pinging Nate on what's happening with the sandpit development proposal, because I want to really make sure that that gets announced when they're having public outreach and things like that, and nothing has happened yet. So Nate is working with those folks, trying to get them going on the project. So, but nothing has happened, which is a good thing because I haven't heard anything. So, so that's what I had for old business. New business. Had a call from Lance Lane, and also a short meeting with Lance, and he brought up a check for money from for this past year, I guess from the fall. Was that, do you know if that was his first payment?
No, it wasn't. There was
Yeah.
one earlier.
There was one earlier.
Yeah.
And Lance is an interesting character. He's a nice guy, but he kind of wanders around, and he seems like he's quiet initially, but once he starts talking, he keeps talking. And one thing he said, I don't think he's ever filled out the form relative to all the details that we were looking for, and he was asking in the future if it could be somehow simplified and maybe just a one payment scenario for how it is financed, and not worry about first cut, second cut, and that stuff. So, but we can talk about that in the future. I think the contract must run through next year. You're right, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, because otherwise, the proposal or request for a proposal would have gone out now, because it's starting to get a little bit late. But he said he was interested in doing some fertilizing and things like that, but he said if he did fertilizing, then he'd want to have some confidence that he'd reap the benefit of the fertilizing. But obviously we can't say, okay, if you fertilize, you're going to get the corn. You can't do that. So he'll just have to put that on a back burner and just wait till next year. The only way to mitigate that, I don't know if we can short cycle the RFP time frame, but so.
How long would it take for him to get his money back out of the fertilizer?
I didn't ask him how much that would cost. Probably a year.
Yeah, I would
A
say.
good- a good year's worth.
I mean, this is maybe a question for, I don't know who handles things like the RFP for the town, but we might be able to do an amendment to the contract to extend it for 1 or 2 more years.
Oh,
We may.
So have a
And we-
a baseline and then option year or 2
Yeah,
that you can, the procurement's done. You just have to say, yes, we want a second year from you, or you may not even not have to exercise the option if the town chose not to, but you could. That's an interesting way to
Yeah.
get a future
We
requirement.
managed putting the RFP out. Obviously, the town has final approval on it, and I would guess that any renegotiation would require their approval, but as far as, trying to push something like that forward, nobody's gonna do it except us, even though Concom.
well, we have two options. We can sort of say we'd like to do an RFP at this point in time so we can get the fertilizing done, or see if we can exercise an extension.
Rick
Yeah.
Green had mentioned he was interested in bidding on it.
Oh, he
next time
was?
around. Yeah, so,
Because Lance was the only bidder last time.
yeah. That.
well, Rick's now got the fields down on Hale Road that he didn't have then,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he's got equipment down there too in the barn. So, he told me that, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. I don't know how serious it was, it's just in passing, but that could be a reason that maybe extending the contract a year might be easier to do to satisfy Lance's fertilizer thing than trying to start a new contract. Because that would have
All
to
right.
go out for
So
bid.
I'll run a couple things by Nate.
Okay.
One, the first option then sounds like to see if we can just extend the contract for a year. That would facilitate, and the rationale being to facilitate something good for the fields, and that's getting them fertilized. Because obviously somebody fertilizes them and they don't get the contract the next year, then they spent quite a bit of money and don't get anything back in return, so.
Yeah.
I have a question about the hay. How useful is the hay from the field at Malone?
At Malone?
It's, for cows, it's fine.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
not for horses.
Yes.
Yeah, and he and I briefly talked about that, and I think he'd like to come in and talk to the committee a little bit, which would be great, so.
Yeah, if the second option to talk about with Nate, though, if we talk about, starting a new RFP, it's got to go out by law, it's got to go out for bid.
Yeah,
So it opens it up, so.
And it's probably too.
and then it's too late now, so.
Yeah.
For that to have any benefit this year, so. All right, so really, the only thing I would want to run by Nate then would be just to see if we can extend the contract a year.
Well, yeah, 1 or 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, if it's gonna,
2 years would be better.
would our
'cause
expectation
1 year,
be-
he'd probably break even,
Hmm.
and then, so.
well, he'd still be paying us, though, right?
What?
He'd still be paying us.
Oh, yeah, he'd still be paying us, because
I mean,
this is
he's-
coming out of his pocket to do the fertilizing.
I mean, he's selling the hay to other people, so,
Yeah.
right?
All right, I'll talk to Nate on that. Oh, I skipped over something on the old business. First line item up here. Anything on Hubbardston Heights?
Well, yeah, I'm still hesitant to plan anything because of my other commitments. But the East Quabbin Land Trust is in the final days of their scavenger hunt. And since they've got a property called Hidden Meadow, there might be some of the scavenger hunt in Hubbardston. So that's something else that people could do.
You know anything about that?
I do.
He probably hid the stuff.
Yeah. No, but I did inquire. Last year, it did come to Hubbardston. This year, not.
Oh.
There's actually, cool stuff up there, but it's not part of the scavenger hunt.
And the other event is, I believe it's May 10th, May 10th, just over the north line in Templeton. The North County Land Trust is doing a wildflower walk on Berry Road.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
What's the name of that property there?
Dwelly?
Yeah, Dwelly, yeah.
All right, that's what I got. That was quick. Anything else?
When we were talking before the meeting started about Mark's retirement and quorum and all that kind of stuff, anybody got any thoughts on how we might
Fill it?
fill that vacancy? Anybody know of any? You keep track of the people on the walks that you've done?
Well, I don't keep track of them, I have a list.
You have a list. It's because a couple guys on one of the walks, the one that went
On the rail trail?
on the rail trail,
Yeah, That's
mentioned
right.
he'd like to be involved with the open space committee, and I said, right now we have a full committee, but we certainly accept volunteers
Yeah.
to do things. But And I asked him,
Who was that?
I can't remember his name, that's why. But I know Tim writes down the names of people that show up, so.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'd remember it even if I saw it, but that might be some of those people that were on that.
Well, you know, I can send out an email to the people on the list, and if,
Yeah, not all of them were from Hubbardston, but yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Unless somebody already knows somebody that they think would be a, good candidate. Because those people seem to be more interested in,
Yeah.
the outdoors and whatnot than somebody else might if we just advertise it on the town website.
All right, all set on that? This is not part of anything, but it's just anecdotal. The Land Priority Group had talked with Vin Ritchie, because he had land he was interested in conserving. But it seemed to be pretty isolated, and that was something where it didn't score as high as other properties. But just driving by there, Ed Clark Road, if you're headed towards Princeton, veers off to the left. Just prior to that, on the right, there's an open area and some chain link fencing, and
Former Wainwright's.
talking about.
and it looks like there's a road that goes off up towards somewhere towards Mid-State. Now, I don't
It
know if
does.
there's any way to get over to Mid-State from there, or does
well,
it get isolated by a big swamp?
That's what happens. There's a peninsula,
Oh,
and you get
okay.
stuck on it.
So
I've never
that-
gone.
So that nice high area just dead ends because it's a peninsula into the swamp?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, maybe you can keep going out and around, so more towards Rutland direction.
Back up towards 68.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I've not been through there.
Yeah.
But that's the old Wainwright property behind the chain link fence, now state
Yeah.
property, and one of the town boundaries is out, that's why I know about
Oh.
it. One of the town boundaries, the Princeton, Rutland, Hubbardston town boundary is out at the end of that road that you're talking. They used to have a runway out there. And that road is actually, I guess, the runway or taxiway or
a
something.
small
Planes?
plane runway?
Yep. Mm-hmm. How long has people been in town? This is dating your time in Hubbardston. Yeah.
When
Well,
was there a
it's-
runway?
On the 1990s aerial photos, you can see the factory and that runway.
Strip. Yeah.
But it looks sort of overgrown at that point.
The
well-
1990s aerial photos? Where do you find those?
On Mass Mapper, the
Oh, really?
Mass
You
Yeah.
go back by
GIS.
year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
Yeah. You can go back pretty far.
that's, well,
There's usually a slider, even like on Google Maps or on Google Earth. There's a slider. You can go back and see how long this stuff has been out there.
Wow.
Another anecdotal note, Steph and I went to a historical meeting at the chapel, and who's a great historian in town?
Gary.
Gary Kangas.
Yeah, so he had a new video, so he's doing, has done a new YouTube video. But part of that video, a lot of it is a video, but a lot of it is just a collection of snapshots of different things. But one of them was actually a dynamic video of the little racetrack, but behind
Oh,
You took
Yes.
us over to-
Calico and Cream, and it actually had cars, and it wasn't a lot of it. I don't know, maybe kids did it too, but a lot of it, most of it was adults that were, and they were really screaming around that track.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to that?
I did not. My parents were very restrictive in my activities.
No racetrack stuff.
Explains things now.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was.
They let you loose and look what happened.
It was. I mean, and these people were flying around like it was the Indy 500 or something. But
jeez.
Yeah, they're like little go-karts, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you were there at the church. You saw
Yes.
the video.
So that's everything. Tim?
I have a question that's sort of peripherally related to open space. A couple of years ago, signs appeared as you enter town from just about any direction, at least on state roads, about leaving a 4-foot gap when passing bicycles. But it would be helpful, I think, if we had some of those signs, like on Williamsville Road. You can go a long way without seeing one of those signs, like from Route 68 all the way to Barry. And I'm not sure where else there are trails that bicyclists might bicycle to, where a couple more of those signs might be beneficial. So I don't know whether that's something we should.
Would you call it a 4-foot right-of-way sign?
It's a
I've never
advised.
noticed one. Where would I see one? So
never
next time I'll
noticed it
look.
Well, if you go up Gardner Road, when you get to the Gardner Town line, you'll see one. If you're coming south, you'll
Oh,
see
yeah.
one that faces southbound traffic. Same thing when you get to the Rutland Town line on Worcester Road. I think there's one at the Princeton Town line on 62. Is there one on,
New Westminster Road heading into Westminster. I can't be sure, but it seems like I saw one there.
yeah, and.
Yeah. Part of the issue is that Hubbardston is not big on signage. There's some I believe, required signage in places, and if they get knocked down, they don't get replaced. Stop signs get put back up, but even then, sometimes.
Not always.
Not always immediately, but, so I don't know how recent that law is, or if it's just starting to come into play, that now we're putting up the signs, and that as bike lanes are being developed, like in Gardner, now, you start to see these signs associated with that. Because I didn't know it was a law, but I've been informed that, yeah, it's a
Oh,
law. 4
So
foot.
it's a law that the
That's what I've been told, but I
Yeah,
haven't
it's not
researched
just
it.
bicycles, it's
pedestrians
or equestrians.
Somebody that's traversing.
Well, we
non-vehicle.
were successful, but who did I deal with in that? I think it was probably the previous
I was,
administrator.
oh,
Yeah, it was.
yeah, it
Was
was,
it?
yeah.
Yeah,
How quickly we forget, right?
He was good. He was a good guy too.
Yeah,
I could query Nate on that one too.
Hmm.
Oh, well, but in part of that query would be like what we did on the last time, because there's was a lot of horse traffic, specifically on
Mhm.
Route Road, because
Yep.
there must be 20-something horses on that road. The
and climbing.
climbing. Yeah, but we got two signs, one at the north end, one at the south end on Route Road, and
Yeah,
but that was specific, like where we wanted them and things like that.
yep.
So we need to add some specifics of what we're looking for. So you want to come up with some specific requests?
Sure.
And it sounds like you were saying if you put in there in the request, like it's on the way to a trail.
Yeah.
Because
That might
yes.
make it a little more appealing. to-
that'll turn into the action for DPW, which is what happened, because they need to know where to put them. And probably it's much more strategic maybe in some areas than others, as far as, I mean, Williamsville's a good lengthy road, and if you put one sign up, it probably wouldn't have too much effect, but.
Okay. Yeah, I'll come
And
up with a
I
list.
think it would want to be, like Williamsville would be one of the more dangerous roads for a bicyclist. So maybe pick
they're all dangerous.
pick the most dangerous road and whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's a good idea.
So I might be able to help you a little bit, Tim. There's a thing called Complete Streets, and it's somewhere in our DPW or town bylaws, and I'm just going to give you the overview. I don't have it in front of me, but when you redo a road, whatever redo is defined as, you're supposed to bring everything up to new standards, and some of that is signage, and I've noticed that may not be occurring, and New Westminster Road was paved last year, less than a year ago. And so that might be more reason to pick that road.
Yep.
I don't know of any real connections. Well, I do, kind of, but we can talk offline. But as far as danger goes, when you get to Westminster and you go across the causeway, there's not guardrails, but guard wires, and there's no real
No escape path.
berm. There's no escape path. So you're going to get strained through cables and concrete posts, which is not, as a cyclist, not what we want.
Oh, yeah, and that's, I've run into that relative to a horse thing. We were out, this is several years ago, but we got caught in a thunderstorm, so Steph and the kids stayed at one spot, and then so I went, the quickest way to get back to the trailer was right down 122. And you could get off to the side in most spots, but there was a stretch, just like what you said.
Very narrow.
Oh, yeah. but-
Guardrails on both sides, so you got no place to go. So, but connector roads, New Templeton, Williamsville is a big connector road, so
Yeah.
the focus on connector roads and roads that have no place for somebody to go, like if there's guardrails or fence lines or something like that, wire cable lines, and there's no escape path, those are the ones that would be the most dangerous, so.
Yeah. There's a lot of New Westminster Road that has cable on it, right?
A fair amount, and some of that's in Hubbardston with fairly steep drop-offs.
Yeah.
Once you get beyond the berm, a foot or so of berm, and then there's the concrete posts and the cable, and down to the bog, the swamp.
New Templeton's same thing.
Yeah, even worse. I'd say New Templeton's even narrower, with more hazards.
And that's
Um,
got trailheads on it too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Lombard Road?
Well, I was just going to mention, because Bob mentioned
yeah.
connector roads, you got 3 miles, 2 of which are in Hubbardston, 1 of which is in Princeton, that connect Route 62 with New Westminster. Lombard Road was repaved. This will be 3 years, almost 3 years ago now, and the cyclists use it a lot. And the horses do, the equestrians do, down near, well, I guess it's the last mile, because the horse farms are there, and they
Yeah.
ride Hidden Meadow quite a bit.
Yep.
Wow.
And if a town, I believe, once again, I'd want to check myself, but if a speed limit isn't posted on a town road, it's assumed to be 40 miles an hour. So if you have 2 cars going 40, and if either one of them is over that, all of a sudden you've got an 80 mile per hour plus
Closure.
closure, yeah. And so, people do cycle. Equestrians are on, they don't come by my house, but they do on the far end to get to the Hidden Meadow Preserve, because there's a lot of trails out there and whatnot. So that's from a specific road perspective that I can offer.
Good.
Thanks
Yeah.
for bringing that up.
Yeah, road safety on some of these things like Williamsville and that, Williamsville, is that blinking sign still there about your speed on Williamsville?
No, I don't think so.
But it was there for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Was it in
why
Hubbardston,
did-
or was it in?
No, it was in
That-
Hubbardston.
that
Why did-
was
why
easy,
did-
It was just a
yeah.
temporary.
Why did they take it down?
By the
Maybe
Rod and
they
Gun
move
Club,
it.
I think.
Move it somewhere else? Huh?
They what? What did you say?
Not too far from the Rod and Gun Club.
Yeah.
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 I don't know why they moved it. Maybe it's financial. They have to switch it around.
Well, whatever. I think there could be a little bit more of that, because like on Williamsville, the cars really go fast on Williamsville too. And if, like, we looked into the speed limit on Route Road, and the they wanted to make that 40. They want to put up a sign of 40 miles an
No.
hour.
Well, we
Yep.
asked him to put up a sign, and he said, well, if we do, it's gonna be 40, and so we said, forget it.
So we said-
Yeah, that's, so
Yeah.
you're basically confirming what I
Yeah.
thought also.
Yeah. I said,
It's
well,
like,
don't
then
put up a
don't-
sign then.
Yeah.
So they're
It's-
not speeding when they go by my house, huh?
Not if they're under,
They're speeding up
40
Route
miles
Road.
an
Roads,
hour
they're
on
under
Jeff.
40.
Yeah. A lot
Guy
of
went
people
by
do.
today when I was picking up the mail.
A lot of people do it,
Flying.
do 40 on the gravel part.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
They was
why it's
running,
all
I
dirt. And
I saw a guy coming towards me and they're going through these potholes and mud splashing all over there. He didn't care. He must have thought he was in a tank on a proving ground or something.
yeah, and you try to wave to them, and they just keep.
Yeah. Jeez.
Okay.
All right, that's all I had.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
I have just one point.
Go for it while I look it up.
Exactly, get in a date. So, just a little update on, not one of our town preserves, but East Quabbin Land Trust Preserve, Hidden Meadow. We did complete a couple burns out there this winter, spring, and today's the last burning day, so if you want to join me for a bonfire tonight up there, I'll provide the hot dogs and the hot cider. No, we have had to been done by 4 o'clock today.
Were you burning today?
No,
Oh.
no. Last year I burned on the 1st of May. I did somewhere else for someone privately, but I went right up to the last day. We got a lot done up there, so we'll be able to mow that. So if you're interested in seeing what's happened up at Hidden Meadow, take a swing out there this summer. I'll try and give you a heads up after we mow, so it'll be a little bit
Yeah.
easier to go down the trails.
How's it gonna get, excuse me, how's it gonna get mowed?
Tractor with a mower on it.
Wow.
How do we get through the woods? There's a cart road that you can get a small tractor up. I think it's a 10-foot gate opening, so it's not too
Get a
difficult.
Good sized tractor up there.
Yeah.
The last Thursday in May is the 29th.
Yep. How's the 29th work? Good? Good, yeah, there should be some good updates relative to some of these things. I guess three
Wait
major
a second.
things going on. It'd be good to find out about, and that's, something should be happening with that sand pit proposal. By then, they're gonna be done like early fall in August or something. so-
August, right?
So you got that. The trails thing ought to have started or will, or imminently starting on that. So that'd be a good time for a meeting. So,
All
they
right.
good with everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's just save that. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.